Hey guys, it's the end of week 13 and it feels really good to be out of the boot for the last couple of weeks. This video I really wanted to give you a rundown of basically the typical like day or physio exercise and things that I'm doing for my leg. So when I wake up, my Achilles, especially at the beginning of week 12 when you just get out of the boot, it's super tight. So as soon as I wake up, I'm very careful walking around on it. As soon as you stand up, you can kind of feel that you're already getting a bit of a stretch just from standing. So I'm a bit more careful, and by the time that I go take my morning shower, I probably warmed it up a little bit, and then also like the hot water in the shower really gets everything kind of loose in the calves and the legs, everything like that. So right after I get out of the shower, that's actually when I start doing my physio. I start with just like using a foam roller on all my legs, so my calves, my quads, my hamstrings, and my hips, just to get the legs ready. And after that, I do a bit of band work on the ground. So I showed you some of the exercises I'm doing for that in an earlier video. So a lot of that is just to get my body and my leg and everything warmed up and ready to go. Once that's all done, my physiotherapist, starting in week 12, has actually got me doing some balancing exercises. So essentially I'm just balancing on my injured leg on one leg, and just trying to stay balanced. You're gonna find that at the very beginning it's gonna be hard because you're gonna lack a lot of range of motion in your ankles. And so naturally when you start to lose balance, your knee kind of shifts around, and your knee essentially just almost acts like a counterbalance to allow your weight to kind of move around to stay balanced. But right now, because of your limited range of motion in your ankles, whenever your knee wants to kind of move forward to give you that balance, you can't, because like obviously your knee is not able to go past neutral much right now. So at that point, you're gonna lose your balance, you're gonna have to stand down, or put your other leg down. But I think just doing a lot of that helps you ultimately get all the stabilizer and like stabilization muscles and joints and everything kind of firing again. So it knows like, okay, I'm gonna, not just from like walking, kind of limping around on it, but I'm actually gonna need to balance completely my full body weight on that leg. So that's been helping a lot. You're gonna feel that when you're balancing, especially because it's near your stretch, your Achilles is gonna get tight just from doing that balancing exercise, and that's okay. You know, in between kind of sets, just rest. You know, try to stay balanced for about 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, and work your way up. When it gets sore, just take some time off and almost just like kind of just rub it down a little bit, kind of massage it, try to get a lot of that pressure out so it's not like seizing up, and then do some more reps essentially. After that, I would do some 2-leg heel raises, and I showed you this in my last video. Just mostly focusing on the eccentric portion, like staying on my tippy toes and then slowly letting myself down with as much body weight on that one leg as possible. You're gonna notice that like on your tippy toes, it's actually gonna feel quite strong, and as you start lowering, you're gonna feel like it's weaker and weaker and weaker until it gets to about neutral, where you're gonna feel like your Achilles is gonna be kind of tender and it's gonna be strained, and you're gonna lose the strength and you're just gonna like step down. So at the end range of motions, you're always gonna be a bit weaker, and that's just completely normal. And that's your body almost just like limiting you and then making sure that you're not gonna overwork it and hurt yourself. But just so you know, in the last couple of weeks, as my ankle has gotten a bit more mobility from walking and things like that, as I'm doing these heel raises, the strength at the bottom is getting a lot stronger. I'm not feeling as tender, and yeah, and I just know that, you know, things are getting stronger and it's coming back together. So I actually show you at the beginning of week 13, so the beginning of this week, she actually started getting me to do 1-leg heel raises. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, so you're not actually doing your full body weight with your one leg, and I'll actually show you a clip of it now. You can essentially use like a countertop or a chair or something like that to offload a lot of your weight, or as much weight as you need to, and then just focus on doing that 1-leg heel raise. And then you're not gonna be able to get all the way to the top potentially, depending on how strong your calves are right now, but that's okay. Just kind of keep working that range of motion, just to get everything stronger. And from doing that for just this 1 week, I've noticed my calves starting to feel like they're coming back quicker. Like they're able to kind of like flex a lot harder. They're able to just get a lot stronger quicker. And so the one thing that you want to remember is doing a lot of these exercises, especially for week 12 and 13, along with like walking, because walking is one of the best physio exercises you can do as well, is that your Achilles is going to get very sore. And so just remember to ice it, and whenever it feels like it's starting to, you feel that pain, you need to know your pain tolerance. So I would say, like, everyone has different pain thresholds, but it shouldn't feel painful. Like, it shouldn't feel like very sharp pain, like anything above, I'd say, a 7. I think you, at that point, you've worked it enough, and just ice it, rest it, and then, you know, check it the next day. But I would say at most, I let my discomfort and pain get to about maybe a 5 or a 6. And that's usually at the bottom of, or like that's usually during the heel raises, and like at the very bottom, that it feels just that like it's getting weak. But I'm never letting it go past a certain range of motion that I would hurt myself. So as soon as I feel a bit of that 5 or 6 aching pain, I know that's maybe when I should stop doing, you know, my sets or reps of heel raises, and I've exhausted it enough, and then just let it rest, maybe ice it and wait for the next day. So in terms of next steps, we're gonna be able to start stretching the Achilles soon. I know in the physiotherapy from weeks 8 to 12, it's saying do not stretch past neutral. And I think that's fine, do follow that. I think when you're walking, naturally, you're gonna stretch it a little bit past neutral each time as you're walking and taking a step, because that's your natural range of motion that your ankles and your feet will go through, you know, in a regular walk. I would say that it's fine to let your Achilles stretch a little bit in those dynamic positions where it's not a sustained position where you're stretching for long periods of time. It's going through that kind of range of motion, and then you're pushing off it. So you're actually strengthening that whole range of motion, which is a lot better than actually static stretches where you're not strengthening at all and you're really just kind of like pulling on elastics. But that's for another topic discussion. As much as you can, try to do more dynamic stretching, where you're actually flexing and focusing your muscles in those end range of motions, and not just like someone like pulling your leg or like pushing you or things like that. So I'll actually show you a couple of progress reports just so you can compare. This is the end of week 13. I'm gonna show you how I'm walking right now. So it's a lot better than when I first got out of the boot at the last video. And as well as I'm gonna show you a test that we're gonna start, I guess, using as a benchmark moving forward, which is called the knee to wall test. So essentially, and I'll show you that as well, you just put your foot, your toes to the edge of a wall, and then you move your knee towards the wall and see how close you can get to the wall. Don't stress it too far. You're not gonna be able to touch the wall right now, so don't try. But just move it until you feel that stretch where you're like, hey, this is like the end of my range of motion. We're gonna eventually work our way so that our knee can touch the wall, and then eventually, you know, down the road, we want to get to a point where we can have about 2 or 3 inches of space from our toes to the wall, and our knee can still touch the wall. And that's usually a good gauge of whether or not you have enough range of motion for like a good full squat. So we'll get there. And so that's it for this video. I'll see you guys back in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be continuing a lot of strengthening, and even start incorporating some light stretches into the Achilles. Now that we're past week 12, I didn't really do much stretching in week 13 except for walking, but starting from week 14 and on, we're gonna be able to start focusing a bit more on kind of just getting that stretch in the Achilles now that it's you know, healed up and decently strong. And then yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video.